up playing right back in the Antarctic circle somewhere. In the Arctic Circle somewhere. It's a very touchy situation for him. I'm hoping that surrounding himself with the kind of not only players but people that are on the squad at Tottenham, and that he can befriend some of those players. And if he does need a night out, that it'll be with those players, and it'll be pretty tame. Your thoughts on REA coming in, not only just as a slight upgrade to Walker, but what we can expect possibly from him as a person. And it's a crapshoot, no pun intended, right?
I mean, look, the off the field stuff, to be honest, I don't care. I'm a Cowboys fan. In the 90s, we had so many off the field problems and we won championships in there. So I don't give a shit about the off the field problems as long as it doesn't create a cancer in the locker room. And
Yeah.
from what I've read, some players that have been in the locker room with him say that in the locker room he's more of a reserved, quiet guy. He's not creating problems. I mean, he made some mistakes on social media. He's he was young, maybe had a little bit too much to drink. Who knows? But I don't really care as long as he doesn't cause a cancer in the locker room. But as far as on the field, I think what we can expect is he does bring a lot of pace. So he can, I don't know if he's as fast as Walker, but talking about we need a pacey winger, like Vass was saying, I mean, REA can provide that. We can go back to playing three at the back and have that pace. And imagine REA and Rose. Once we get both of them back bombing down the wings, it's going to be ridiculous. And the thing REA does better than Walker is he's actually good at crossing. In France, since 2013, he's had the most assists.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that's what we can expect from him is to actually contribute with assists when he makes those runs down the wing rather than just stretching the defense.
And that's most assists from the fullback position, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. Most assists from the fullback position since 2013.
Did you think that getting his teammate was a real possibility in Di Maria? And would that have been something that Tottenham fans would have welcomed? It seemed when he had his stint in the Premier League prior, didn't really come off well for him. Very physical league, and he's not built that way.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't work out for him last time, but I mean, he is a player with quality that can't be denied. He has that championship experience. And so, I mean, I wouldn't have minded us giving it a go. I mean, who knows? Maybe Poch can get something else out of him. Maybe the system
Yeah.
he was playing with United didn't fit him. So who knows? But one thing I want to touch on is, before the window, I thought our biggest need was bring in someone with championship caliber who could bring that mentality to the squad. And I think we have done that with Lorente and Aurier.
Yeah, I agree.
You-
Lorente, yeah, at Swansea, one thing, but at Juventus, undeniable talent, and being a Juventus supporter of sorts, I've seen him play a lot, and he is very good in the air, and he has a way of drifting into areas that allow for other players to become creative and find him, and he does have a nose for goal, undeniable.
Yeah, I mean, he's won the league with Juventus. He won the Europa League with Sevilla. And then, talk about internationally. I mean, he didn't play in the final matches, but the World Cup squad and the Euro squad in 2010 and 2012 for Spain. When Juve went to the finals in the 2014-2015 season for the Champions League, he was a sub player in that. So we're not necessarily talking about we didn't need that player to come in and start, but he just brings a different mentality having been there and been in squads and dressing rooms where they've won major accomplishments. That was something we were lacking. And same thing with Aurier. I mean, he's won, with PSG, the French league twice or two times. Monaco won it last year, but he's also won the Africa Cup of Nations.
Yep.
And so we're just bringing in players that have a winning mentality that we didn't have before in the locker room. And I think that's key, huge if we want to make that jump to winning things, to have players with that type of experience.
Yeah, and we touched on that a little bit last week. It's like we have players that want to succeed, but the bottom line is we've won nothing. We won fuck all when it comes down to it. And getting these players in that have that pedigree, that have trophies in their locker now, not when we look back at our history and we go back and walk through the halls of what will be our new museum, and we see something that we won back in the 90s or back in the 80s or back in the 60s. These are things that we want to have happen now. And when you acquire players that have that pedigree, yeah, it can't do anything but help the squad. And we are acquiring players, it seems, that are not going to come in and pound the chest and say, "Hey, look at me." It's not players of a Suarez or Lamar even maybe that are going to come in and demand a lot of attention and a lot of the ball. These are part players. But the one thing that this window did, when I look at the squad as a whole, Vass, is it seems to give us a lot of depth. Something that we've been terribly lacking. I think I just messaged Tim midweek and the guys and said, when was the last time we had 3 strikers? And I think it was Adebayor, Soldado, and Kane. Was that a time when we maybe had 3 strikers? But I'm talking 3 strikers now that can legitimately go out, play cup matches, play Champions League, rotate a little bit, give Kane a breather when the time comes. Vass, what does this window to you look like in terms of depth, and how does it line up for the rest of the year when it comes to these cup ties?
The depth's a lot better, clearly. Our outgoings were, as we said earlier, players who didn't even figure except for Kyle Walker.
Yep.
And Wimber only played a handful of games. So it does give us depth. The jury is still out on Janssen. Clearly, the guy has struggled in his season, and Laurenti's arrival probably means that his chances of games are even less now, I would imagine. So, yeah, it's great to have 3 strikers. I don't know how we're going to get Janssen to improve on last season if he isn't really playing. And, of course, we've had long-term injuries to both Lamela and Danny Rose, both of whom now have sort of clouds above them, and some doubts. We'll have to wonder Rose's commitment to the cause after that interview he gave to the Sun. Hopefully Pochettino's got him back on board like he should be. Lamela's had some quite serious injuries, and amongst many fans, the jury seems to still be out on him. But there's no question that he can do a job when fully fit for us. And I think when those 2 are back, then yes, we'll have some much deeper squad to select from. Harry Winks in midfield would have had perhaps more limited opportunities had we indeed signed someone like Barkley. Who knows? But I suspect perhaps we will add in January, and I'm thinking of Barkley in particular. And if that does happen, then the squad depth improves still further. So that's only 3 months down the line. But I think we're in a much better position than we were last season, definitely.
Tim, Vass mentions Barkley there, and obviously we're still linked with him, and January could be an opportunity for us to go and sign him, given his health. Harsh Mishra Peters, funny, asks, not buying a camera, see him in the window, was it a blessing in disguise for Winks, or does this, all these rumors and speculation about Barkley coming in 6 months, does that kind of put a fire under Winks to say, you got 6 months to really step it up even a little bit more than what you've already done and show Poch that you're ready to start? Or is he going to be a perpetual backup if that happens, with very young players in Dyer and Barkley possibly manning the midfield once, along with Wanyama? Once Dembele starts to fade out a little bit, he still may be our best central defensive midfielder in terms of ball play and strength, along with Wanyama. But you can see that transformation happening, and Poch wants players that can push forward. If Barkley's acquired, I see him being that player along with Dyer. What does that do for Winks, and what's his timetable?
With Winksy, I don't think it's really any cause of concern because he's had to fight his way into this squad, and I don't think he's scared of continuing to do so. I think he would relish the competition. And also with Barkley, I mean, he can play center defensive mid, but also he can play center mid and center attacking mid. He's more versatile, so I don't know if it's that directly of an impact to Winksy if we were to bring him in. And we have so many competitions we're in I mean, whoever's performing the best is going to play in those competitions. I mean, and Winks can take that opportunity. I don't see any concern with us bringing in competition for it meaning anything bad for Winksy.
Yeah, and Vass, he also asks a different question, and this is an interesting one. Does buying Llorente show that Poch is willing to change his game plan in the latter stages of the game, or is he just a fourth signing? I don't know that it matters early window, late window. That doesn't matter to me. A lot of people think that doing our business early is something that we ought to do more of, but that doesn't bother me. But Llorente being a signing similar to what Sissoko was, just last day, last minute, we're going to bring someone in just to bring someone in, or I think you've kind of already answered this. He is quite serviceable, yes?
Yeah, I think so. The Premier League champions were after him, were they not? So,
Yep.
these types of signings are calculated for many reasons. Whether they happen really doesn't really matter. The guy is serviceable. He's proven that he can score goals, and as Tim said earlier, he's a winner. He's won things, and he'll be good to have in the changing room. So I don't read too much into the lateness of his arrival. I think he's a good add to our squad, and something that at least Poch is someone that at least Poch can rely on.
I don't think we could have.
I do seriously.
I was gonna say I don't think we could have got Llorente any sooner because him coming to us was tied with Swansea getting Wilfred Bonny back. I don't think there's any way you could have done that business earlier in the window.
Yeah, agreed. I was going to go on to say that I think Swansea were clear that they wanted to bring Boney back. I don't think they would have been able to afford the wages of both of them, so one had to go, and that's our opportunity, and the club moved for it. So, I don't have any issues with it being a late signing, and it's definitely not a late signing in the mould of Musa Sissoko last season, when perhaps we were scrapping around a little bit at the last moment.
I'm really actually excited about Llorente coming in, and I said we're going to make a surprise signing that was for someone nobody on our radar, but I'm really excited about him because last year, his only year with Swansea, he had the most headed goals in the Premier League. He had 7 goals off of a header, and think of the corners we've had in the last 2 games where we haven't been able to convert anything. 24 corners and nothing. If you think you can have him in there on some of those.
Yeah, definitely. And Kenny asked earlier whether we see this as a change in tactic for Pochettino late in games, and it very well may be.
And I think he can contribute.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the last 2 games, Burnley, Chelsea, we were camped pretty much in their half for most of the game. We kept knocking on the door. We couldn't break it down or through, and we perhaps needed something different. Llorente might just be that different. We'll have to see if it plays out in that way. But certainly they've brought him with a particular idea in mind. I think Pochettino will definitely look to him and turn to him when needed.
And another quick fact on him, he actually had the highest shot conversion rate of any striker in the Premier League last season as well. So, I mean, being able to hit the goal, that's a huge upgrade over Janssen. And I don't mean to slag off Janssen, but he's not clinical in front of the goal. And to come in as a late sub, someone we want to try and make a difference, if you can't even get a shot on target. I
think Janssen is he plays with fear or nervousness. I think maybe the Premier League was a step up for him too soon. I think I've said that before. It took him way too long to adjust to it, and perhaps he hasn't still adjusted to it. And the few minutes he was getting here or there, I think he was afraid of fading effectively, and that just stifled his game completely. He looked like a rabbit in the headlights at times. It's a shame for the guy because he's young, he's talented, he's scoring for the Dutch national team.
Yep.
But when it came to playing for Spurs, he just couldn't find his feet for whatever reason. So, look, Llorente's strike record is something that we can take heart from, I think.
Yeah, and I definitely see him being first choice off the bench and and there were a lot of speculation out there that we were trying to move Jansen. West Brom was talked about, a couple other teams I believe as well.